but seldom had visitors. Often, he would go to the Winter Palace Hotel for a drink, where visiting tourists would recognize him and strike up a conversation. The Metropolitan Museum of Art excavation team was still working on the West Bank, but he wasn't a regular guest for dinner with the team, nor did he seem to have any close friends there. Over the years, his favorite niece, Phyllis Walker, came to visit for part of the season, but she seemed to be the only one who had stayed for any length of time. In London, where he kept his flat, it was pretty much the same thing. He had plenty of invitations to dinner parties, but as far as one can tell, he had no close friends. Among his Egyptological colleagues, Percy Newberry was the only one with whom he remained in close contact. The money Carter had earned during his American lecture tour, combined with Lady Carnarvon's generosity, made Carter relatively comfortable in his retirement, able to dine out when he chose and travel where he liked. But as mentioned before, he seems to have lost interest in Tutankhamun. He never even attempted to bring out the definitive 6-volume set on the excavation that he had planned. Now, he had plenty of time to work on it, but no desire. Indeed, he seems to have lost all interest in Egyptology in general. There were lectures at the Egypt Exploration Society in London, but he didn't attend them. It was as if he were experiencing postpartum depression following the closing of the excavation. In his last years, he suffered from cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and was cared for by his niece Phyllis. Howard Carter died at home on March 2nd, 1939. He was 65 years old. As far as we can tell, no Egyptologist attended his funeral at Putney Vale Cemetery in London. Carter had made out his will in 1931 and named Harry Burton, his photographer, as one of the 2 executors of his estate. The other executor, Bruce Ingram, also had a connection with the tomb. Ingram was the editor of the Illustrated London News. Carter had had many business dealings with Ingram when he supplied drawings and information about Tutankhamun to the periodical. Ingram wasn't a close friend, but obviously Carter trusted him. The will tells us something about Carter. He remembered his faithful native supervisor of the excavation, Abd al-Ahmed, and left him 150 Egyptian pounds, which was the equivalent to several $100s, a significant amount for the time. His house at the entrance to the Valley of the Kings he left to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. His staff had been crucial throughout the clearing of the tomb. And to his niece Phyllis, he left the remainder of his estate, saying, "And I strongly recommend to her that she consult my executors as to the selling of any Egyptian or other antiquities included in the bequest." This is where Burton's Egyptological background was crucial. Carter's small collection of Egyptian antiquities included several pieces with Tutankhamun's name on them that could be traced to the tomb. Burton knew to advise Phyllis not to sell these, as it would damage Carter's reputation. But what should be done with the objects? Phyllis and the executors agreed they should be discreetly given back to the Antiquity Service, perhaps in a diplomatic pouch. But Rex Engelbach, head of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, had never been on good terms with Carter and was not cooperating. Carter had been a difficult man, and many wanted it known that he had taken objects from the tomb. Then, World War II broke out, and it would be nearly 7 years before the objects were returned to Egypt. Finally, after the war, the solution was reached. Egypt's King Farouk offered to help. The objects were turned over to the Egyptian embassy in London, flown to Egypt, and given to the king to present to the museum. No one dared question His Majesty about their origin. By discreetly returning the Tutankhamun artifacts to the Egyptian Museum, Burton, Phyllis Walker, and others involved were trying to protect Carter's legacy. But unknowingly, they may also have been protecting Lord Carnarvon's reputation. When Carter was asked by Lady Carnarvon to sell her recently deceased husband's collection of Egyptian antiquities...
How old is Jimmy Carter right now?
Jimmy Carter is 99. He was born on October 1st, 1924 in Plains, Georgia.
Carter held back the pieces inscribed with Tutankhamun's name, knowing the Lord would be accused of stealing objects from the tomb. These may have been the pieces in Carter's collection that King Farouk helped repatriate. Carter's reputation has held up quite well over the 100 years since his discovery of the tomb. Among Egyptologists, It's generally agreed that Carter did a masterly job of putting together a team and clearing the tomb. Still, when everything was done, Carter remarked again that in the end, he thought Tutankhamun had eluded him. I get a similar feeling about